Hello Internet. Today I'd like to show you how I change my GFO and carbon in my Reef Aquarium. So then anyhow, this is my canister, and I'm just finishing up washing it out. And I'm going to fill it back up, and then I'm going to drain, rinse the contents of the GFO and the carbon as part of my water change. So to kind of start off, what I do, just to let you know, I have my canister. I have some premium carbon. I have some granular ferric oxide, which is GFO, paper towels. I have a tablespoon. Now, according to my records, last time I did this, I used 8 tablespoons of GFO and 12 tablespoons of carbon. So what we do first, we're going to put the GFO in the bottom. So I open it up, and you can see it's kind of it's a loose, almost like a brown color. We're going to go with 8 tablespoons. So. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but this is very dusty. So we're going to have to rinse this, and I like to do that as part of my water change. Next thing I do is I put in a foam block. So this is going to isolate the GFO in case the water pressure gets too high, because this water comes up from the bottom. It's going to isolate the GFO from the carbon. But the carbon is supposed to be packed between these two foam blocks. So I don't push this down too far, and I'm going to put in 12 tablespoons of carbon. So as we add the carbon, I'm going to push it sort of down more as needed. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm starting to kind of run out of space. I'm going to give it a light push down. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I believe I counted that correctly. Okay, so then this next top foam block comes in here, and I push it down a little bit. There's a little plastic thing that goes on the top of that. Great. Okay, so you can kind of see we have GFO in the bottom, we have some packed carbon in the top, and then I'm going to put this guy on here, and we should be ready to go to the rinse step. Just for those of you who may be interested, I do typically enter these into this app, Reef Tank Pro. I can set up some custom measurements. So one of the things I do is I'll do an add GFO. I'm going to put in 8 tablespoons, and then I do a new entry, and I do add carbon, and I'm going to put in 12 tablespoons of that. So that way I know when the last time I did this was, and it just helps me keep track of, you know, how long ago it's been since I've done this. Okay, so here I am at the fish tank, and again I have my GFO and carbon, and I'm going to slip this down into the canister. See right there. And at this point I'm going to just very gently screw this up onto here. See, this takes quite a few turns. And it does come with this little guy to help you tighten it down. You don't want to get it too tight. If it's a long time before you get it loose, it's going to be on there pretty good and snug. But you do want it to be tight enough that it's not going to leak. So I do put a little bit of torque on it. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. So now we're going to turn on the water. So one thing that I like to do is I like to use my water change as a way to rinse this thing. That way I just kind of use the dirty water in my fish tank to clean this guy out. So in order to do that, I flip off my sump, and then I use my refugium. I'm going to pump water out of my refugium through the GFO and Carbon. Keep an eye on that, and it'll come out here as the rinsed GFO and Carbon into this bucket, which will throw down the toilet. Okay, so I'm going to give him a little bit of electric. So at this point, you can see the water's coming down. It's coming up through the middle, and you see all that dust in there. So we don't want that going back into the fish tank, so that's why we're going to pump it into this bucket. So I let this take its time. There's no real rush here. It also helps if you have a way to restrict the flow. When you first hook this guy up, water's gonna flow easy through him, and so the little pump that I have, I like to restrict the flow back a little bit so GFO isn't tumbling too much. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's already starting to tumble in there down below. I like to keep this canister in an area that's dark. That way it doesn't get like any algae growing in it. So I keep it on the outside of my tank. My tank's only a 37-gallon with a 10-gallon fuge. So I only needed just this smaller setup. But as I said, once this thing sits for a while, it will get harder to pump water through, so you'll have to adjust that valve. There's the water coming into this bucket, and surprisingly it doesn't look that bad. I may just turn this up just a whisker so we can get ample rinsing. Here's the valve that I was referring to. This thing allows me to control the amount of water that's pumping through the GFO and the Carbon. Here you can see this GFO is tumbling like pretty good. In fact, this is just more or less just for the rinse. I'm probably going to turn it back once we're done rinsing it, and then I try to keep an eye on it. I like it to tumble just a little bit, but if it gets to tumbling too much, it will break apart and find its way up through and back into your tank. So you don't want it to tumble too much. And generally I find after about a month or two, if I don't change this, it pretty much won't tumble at all. So no matter how much water I pump through it. But that probably has to do with the fact that I have a smaller size of pump for this. But really, I just want to take a moment and say this has really helped my fish tank. I mean, before I had this stuff, I had a lot more algae. Now that I have it, it really helps to control the amount of phosphate in my tank. I bought a one of those super precise phosphate test kits, and really, I mean, when you watch the amount of phosphate in your tank, I mean, it will noticeably drop it, depending on the size of tank that you have. But this one that I have was good for the size tank I have. As for the Carbon up top, like I said, we packed it in so you can see it's not tumbling. This is going to help remove things from your water that you don't want in there. Help purify your water. It will, chemical compounds will attach to those, and it'll keep your water crystal clear. So you don't have to do as many water changes. So anyhow, this bucket's almost full, so I'm gonna put my tube back into my fuge, and I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I hope it's helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a nice day.